All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're talking about a man who was just so much more than a boxer. We're talking about Muhammad Ali, the guy who basically wrote the playbook for athlete activism.
Think about this line, I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong. Just like that, with those few words, Muhammad Ali didn't just take a stand. He drew a line in the sand. And not just for himself, but really for every single athlete who would ever think about speaking out after him.
So that brings us to the big question, right? The real puzzle of his life. How in the world did the planet's most famous boxer become its most hated, and then somehow its most beloved figure? I mean, that's the journey we're going to unpack. A story of pure defiance and, in the end, redemption. And that story, man, it really catches fire in 1964. You got to picture it. This was the year that this young, loud, confident boxer from Louisville, Kentucky, didn't just win a title. No, he grabbed the entire world's attention and refused to let go. And you have to understand, the timing here was absolutely everything. This was not some random coincidence. This was pure strategy. It was like a 1-2 punch outside the ring. On day 1, February 25th, he pulls off this huge upset, becomes the heavyweight champ. Then, literally the very next day, he drops another bombshell. He's joined the Nation of Islam, and he's dropping his slave name. He mashed these two massive events together on purpose. He forced everyone to deal with both at the same time. You couldn't cheer for the champion without confronting the activist. It was honestly just brilliant and totally designed to provoke. And then he gets on the mic and says, "I'm the greatest. I shook up the world." You know, he wasn't just being cocky. He knew exactly what he had just done. This was never just about a boxing match. It was about kicking off this massive shift in sports, in culture, in politics. And he was right. He had, without a doubt, shaken up the world. But here's the thing about shaking up the world. It always comes with a price. And this is where Ali stepped into the biggest fight of his entire life. And it had nothing to do with being in a ring. Listen to this, in his own words. This is his reason for refusing to go to Vietnam. He's not just making some abstract religious point here. He's making an incredibly powerful political statement. He's connecting a war thousands of miles away directly to the racism and violence happening right here at home. I mean, can you even begin to imagine the guts that took back then? And the powers that be, they came down on him, and they came down hard. I mean, they didn't just disagree with him. They tried to completely erase him from the sport. Stripped of his title, his boxing license, gone. Banned from his profession for 3 years. And on top of all that, convicted of a felony. They basically exiled him right at the absolute peak of his physical prime. So the fight goes from the ring to the courtroom. And to get this conscientious objector status, he had to jump through some serious legal hoops. Look at this. First, you had to be against all war, not just one. Second, it had to come from your religion. And third, they had to believe you were actually sincere. It was a really high bar, designed to weed out pretty much everybody. And it all led to this landmark Supreme Court case, Clay v. United States. Now, here's the really interesting part. By the time it got to the Supreme Court, the government had already admitted that Ali met 2 of the 3 rules. Yeah, they actually conceded his beliefs were religious and sincere. So the court's final decision, it wasn't about whether he was right or wrong. They reversed his conviction on a technicality. The appeal board never wrote down why they denied his claim in the first place. So it was a win for due process for sure, but really, it was the key that unlocked the door for his epic comeback. And man, what a comeback it was. After being out of the game for over 3 years, Ali didn't just return to box. He came back to take back his throne, and, just as importantly, to take back his own story. I mean, just take a look at these career stats. Even after they stole 3 of his best years from him, his record is just insane. 56 wins, only 5 losses. He didn't just limp back into the sport, he came back to completely dominate it all over again. And the whole world, literally, the whole world was watching. Get this, an estimated 1 billion people tuned in for his third and final war with Joe Frazier, the Thrilla in Manila. 1 billion people. That's a huge chunk of the planet's population at the time. All eyes were on him. And that fight, well, it more than lived up to the hype. It's still remembered as one of the most incredible and just plain brutal displays of heart and endurance in sports history. Just legendary stuff. But here's something amazing. A little peek behind the curtain of the legend. Ali, the guy with all the bravado, was pushed so far past his limit, he actually told his corner, cut him off. He wanted to quit. But in this wild twist of fate, it was Fraser's corner that gave up first, just seconds before Ali might have himself. Incredible. And of course, we can't forget the rumble in the jungle a year before that. When he beat the unstoppable-seeming George Foreman in Zaire, that was the moment he officially reclaimed the heavyweight title that had been stripped from him. His comeback in the ring was officially complete. Okay, so he'd conquered the boxing world. Again, one of the greatest comebacks in sports, period. But for Ali, the journey wasn't over. His next transformation was going to be personal. It was going to be spiritual. And it's what would cement his legacy, taking him from this polarizing figure to a truly global, beloved icon. And this is the pivot right here. He started to move away from the more separatist ideas of the Nation of Islam that had really defined his early years as an activist. Instead, he embraced a more universal, mainstream Islam. And that philosophical change was absolutely crucial. It's what allowed him to become the global humanitarian and ambassador for peace that we all remember. And his life's work from then on was guided by these 6 core principles: spirituality, respect, giving. You see it all there. But look at the last 2, conviction and dedication. I mean, those were the 2 things that were woven through his entire life, right? From the boxing ring to his humanitarian work. And that brought him to his final and his longest fight, a 32-year battle with Parkinson's disease. And he fought it right out there in the open, with this quiet grace and humor that was such a powerful contrast to the invincible champion he once was. And it all culminates in this one unforgettable moment, Atlanta, 1996, the Olympics. The whole world is watching as this trembling hand, weakened by his disease, reaches out and lights the Olympic flame. In that one silent, powerful image, the transformation was complete. The man who once divided a nation was now a symbol of strength and hope for the entire world. His redemption was absolute. So, when you put it all together, what's the takeaway? What is the real, enduring legacy of this unbelievable life? I think it's this. Muhammad Ali's legacy is defined by his refusal to be just an athlete. He proved that your platform, whatever it is, can be a massive force for change. But, and this is the big but, he also showed us that to have that kind of influence, you have to be willing to sacrifice, maybe everything. And that kind of leaves us with this big final question to think about. He wrote the playbook for the modern activist athlete, no doubt. But look at what it cost him. It really makes you wonder, what is the true price of a legacy? Not just one that shakes up the world, but one that actually changes it for good.